You ever have one of those million-dollar app ideas, but it just fizzles out because the thought of actually building it is just too much? Well, there's a new movement in tech. They're calling it vibe coding, and it promises to change all that. The idea is to turn your thoughts into real, working apps with just a few sentences. Let's see if it's for real.
I mean, just think about it for a second. No crazy code, no spending months on a steep learning curve. You just describe what you want. Hey, build me a project dashboard, or I need a simple CRM, or whatever, and an AI just does it. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, guess what? It's happening right now.
And this is the term you're going to want to remember, vibe coding. Seriously, you'll be hearing it everywhere pretty soon because it represents a huge shift in how we think about making stuff for the internet.
So, what's the actual dream here? What are these vibe coding tools really selling us? Let's break down the core idea and see what all the hype is about.
Okay, so here's the official definition we're going to work with. At its heart, vibe coding is really all about translation. It's about taking that human intention, that vibe, that spark of an idea you have, and translating it directly into a working piece of software. It's all about closing that gap between your idea and a real product until it's almost zero. Now, this isn't just some theory. There's a whole ecosystem of these tools popping up, all trying to make this happen. So let's meet some of these new AI builders and see how they actually work. To make this real, we're going to zoom in on one of these platforms. It's called CREAO. It's a perfect example of a tool that's trying to turn that vibe coding dream into something you can actually use. So just look at the promises CREAO is making here. It says you can build custom software just by describing it. It even throws in an AI copilot for every app. And get this, it handles all the messy backend stuff like databases and deployment for you. The big idea is to help you break free from those rigid, one-size-fits-all apps that never really do what you want them to.
And check out this workflow. It's pretty wild. You can literally take a design you've already made in a tool like Figma, hook it up to the platform with an API key, and then just feed the AI a link to your design. The AI then looks at your visual layout and tries to build a real functional app from it. It's like a direct bridge from a picture to actual code.
Okay, but this is where the plot thickens. Because for every person who's calling this a revolution, there's an experienced developer raising a huge red flag. Is this really the future of creativity? Or are we just inventing faster ways to shoot ourselves in the foot? So on one side, you've got this take. This user is basically saying, look, vibe coding is awesome for speed. It's perfect for knocking out a quick prototype to see if an idea even works. It doesn't have to replace traditional structured coding. They can both exist in the same toolbox. And then, you've got the other side of the coin. This comment from a seasoned developer just cuts right to the heart of the fear. What happens when you create something that you don't actually understand? That question right there is the central conflict in this whole debate. All right, let's dig into the arguments for vibe coding first. What are the actual benefits that have people so pumped about this tech?
The case for vibe coding really boils down to a few key things. First, speed. Building and testing ideas with an MVP, a minimum viable product, in literally minutes instead of weeks. It's also about empowering people who aren't coders, founders, designers, entrepreneurs, to bring their ideas to life. And for the pros, it's about automating all the boring, repetitive stuff so they can focus on the really tough problem.
I absolutely love this analogy from a developer with 20 years of experience. It just perfectly captures how a professional sees it. The AI isn't replacing their expertise. It's like having a super fast assistant who can do all the grunt work, even if you have to constantly look over their shoulder and tell them what to do. But that looking over their shoulder part is key. So now let's flip the script and look at the case for craft, the argument that real software development is a lot more than just a good vibe and a fast typist. Skeptics are pointing to some really serious problems. They're worried the AI will just churn out messy, impossible to maintain spaghetti code. Or even worse, that it could create massive security holes that a beginner would never even notice. And maybe the biggest fear of all is that it'll create a whole generation of people who can build things but have no idea how to fix them when they break. This quote is just brilliant. This developer is pointing out that reviewing and debugging code is often way harder than writing it in the first place. So if you're just generating code all day, your entire job becomes code review. And that's a skill that takes deep, deep expertise. This analogy just nails the whole trade-off. It's exactly like driving a car, right? You don't need to be a mechanic to get from A to B. But the moment that check engine light flicks on, you're in big trouble if you don't know what it means or who to call. It's the exact same idea with these vibe-coded apps. Building it is one thing. Fixing it is something else entirely. So with these two super strong, totally opposite views, what's the verdict? Is vibe coding a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it kind of seems like the answer is, it depends. It really all comes down to who you are and what you're trying to do. If you're a designer who just needs a quick prototype, a tool like Rosebud AI is probably a perfect fit. But if you're a seasoned developer who just wants an AI assistant but still wants total control, you'd be looking at something totally different, like Vitara. See? It's not about the tool itself. It's about matching the tool to the job. So, the consensus seems to be that vibe coding isn't some magic solution, but it's not a disaster either. It's a powerful new hammer in the toolbox. In the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, who understands the blueprint, it could be a game changer. But in the wrong hands, yeah, it can make a pretty big mess. So where does all of this leave us? What does this whole new way of doing things mean for the future of building software?
You know, maybe the biggest takeaway here is about how our jobs might change. As AI gets better and better at doing the tedious typey, as that one developer put it, maybe the most valuable human skills won't be about writing perfect code line by line anymore. Maybe the focus will shift to being a planner, a system architect, and, most importantly, a really good reviewer of the AI's work. The future developer might be less of a bricklayer and more of a digital architect. And that right there is a really powerful thought.